But so anyways, about the Chauvin trial is they're going to do closing statements literally tomorrow. We're doing this. When are we recording this shit? It's on the 18th of April. Hell, it's probably. Don't tell them when I'll put this up, but they're doing closing statements tomorrow, and then they're going to do they're going to sequester the jury. And so basically, what's going to happen is this is where I think it's going to go. The most likely it's going to be a hung jury. You have to have a verdict on, I think, murder.
Yeah.
So if they can't get a consensus, it'll be a hung jury, and they'll have to do it again. But so I love shit like this. This is the closest we've got, in my opinion, to OJ back in the day. Now,
it really is.
OJ, I think, was at least 3 months. This one's been literally 3 weeks. Most of the
OJ was more high profile because of his name, but like this is pretty damn up there because. Man, I don't know. It's hard to say. Dude, I think that dude was on. Like, didn't they already find out he had drugs in his system? But the same thing, I think as a police officer these days, you just gotta be fucking aware of everything. You know what I mean? How you look. Have you watched any of Falcon and Winter Soldier? In not the last episode that just came out, but they have a new Captain America, who is John Walker, who in the comic books was U.S. agent. And everybody, like, all the fans are like, we fucking hate this new Captain America. And it's like, well, yeah, you ain't supposed to like him. He ain't supposed to be a good guy. He's going to be an asshole. And he's got the shield, and he's like the new Captain America. And, you know, they branded him. It's like, John Walker, new Captain America. Well, one of his friends gets killed, and he chases down this, like, terrorist person. And it's kind of like a gray line of, like, these people are terrorists, but they're terrorists for, like, not really bad. There's a whole story arc to it. He chases this guy down who wasn't the one that killed his friend, but was fighting with the people that killed his friend, and basically just fucking beheads his ass with the fucking shield, just beats him till he's dead. And he does it right in the middle of all these people with their phones out and shit, and they're all filming it, and it's fucking like an international incident. And it's like, you got to be fucking aware of shit going on. And it's like, you know, and then of course the government's like, you are no longer Captain America. You're lucky you're not in prison. You know, we're fucking damn, you know, and it's kind of like with police nowadays, you got to be fucking aware of everything. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
they could have had that guy under control. And, you know, it's hard to say without being in the situation, but I think you just have to take an extra step of, like, there's enough of you there without this dude being a fucking threat. You know what I mean? Of, like, you could have done something. And they're damn cell phones and body cam, it's just...
Well, when they had the body cam, of course, immediately, but it ended up being leaked. See, now, the transcript to the body cams were actually given to, like, CNN, and I don't know if they were given, I can't remember, they're not just CNN, but somebody else, somebody in the big news.
Yeah.
I think I believe they were told not to directly release it, but they knew that the situation was more complicated than what the original 8-minute video showed.
Yeah. It was out of context.
Yeah, and so these days we've got you've got new videos, of course, showed, and I've not seen everything. I would catch it when I could get a good look to catch it, but so you got Floyd in the damn surveillance video from inside the store where he's got the fake $20 bill, which came from, and I cannot remember the guy's name, but it was his drug dealer who was with him, who had tried to pass that off before.
Yeah.
Basically, the clerk in the store the policy in the store was if they see a counterfeit bill and they take it, then it comes out of their paycheck.
Yeah. A lot of places are like that. It's hard to enforce, but I've known companies that are basically been like, you know, it's on your ass. You know, pay attention.
So he thought it was suspect. He let his manager know. The manager called, and I don't know, they didn't apparently leave, or George Floyd got in the car. They might have been doing a deal right literally then, or recently. And that's when the police come up on him.
Yeah.
And so that's when you start getting the first video where he's not complying, and so the gun gets pulled on him. And so it rapidly goes from, would have been a misdemeanor type thing.
Well, as soon as the gun comes out, shit gets serious.
Yeah,
it escalates everything.
Yeah. But then there was the pics of where it looks like he's got a pill in his mouth.
Yeah.
The prosecution was able to just negate that actual, as far as circumstances evidence about them having drugs. He has drugs in his system. He has drugs. That also, I forgot what it's fucking called, where they've literally been, they've been processed. There's various instances where they've been processed, and there's other ones where he's in. They don't have a pill in his stomach. They have, instead what they have is a chewed up pill with his DNA in the police car, because they put him in the police car and he's going freaking nuts.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of that stuff, and you have another big thing that came out was, while there was alleged he had some heart troubles, it's a 90% blockage on one of his main artery things.
Yeah.
And so the defense's plan is to try to get a reasonable doubt. Okay, so you're going to have difficulty with the manslaughter charge. Is going to have to really got to do with excessive force or not. But in terms of murder, you're going to have to do reasonable doubt's all you need to negate the murder. And the way, of course, people think that for second degree or murder period, you have to have an intent. And no, you do not have to intent. But how they were,
it's just,
and so there's nothing there to try to prove, or even from both sides, where they try to prove or disprove whether he intended
for him to die.
Yeah. And so it has to do. A lot of it comes with, damn it, how you want to fucking say it? It's
negligence.
You got negligence. You've also got excessive force, whether it's excessive force or not, and then how long it was. There was tons of the prosecution's best witness was, I think his name is Tuber. He's a doctor who's like a breathing expert, and they were talking about the about breathing, because they're trying to really nail him on the breathing part where he's blocking the
You're
thing.
choking this guy out, bullshit.
But as the trial comes up, you got the film from the little girl. You've got the body camera shots from the police officers, and there's points where he's shifted his weight, and so there's points where it's more on the shoulder, and there's points where it's on the side of the neck. The thing is it's very difficult to not, when you have all of this shit, to sit there and say, well, it's definitely asphyxiation or whatever the hell it's called. Yeah.
And have you ever had to restrain somebody?
No.
It's a pain in the ass. Because I've had to restrain somebody one time that was having an episode, and you're just fucking fighting. It'll wear your ass out. I was exhausted when I got done because of just flat out. It's and when they're they're going all out. They want up. Yeah. It's not like it's like they're fucking going. It's not easy. It's not as easy as it looks. It's like you're literally fighting to hold somebody down, and they're squirming and they're moving. It's like you're just doing whatever you can. So it's not like, and I mean, he's probably trained to hold people down, but that shit it's just different. It's totally different.
They've got pictures of the training to hold someone down using almost the exact same technique.
Yeah.
The prosecution, I forgot who they had up there, but said this wasn't actual. Even though that was there as a training, that was not the policy.
Yeah.
And so and also another big thing was when you showed up and there was a resisting arrest of any type, you're authorized to use the taser, which would be considered more of a excessive force type thing, or a stronger force response than the restraint.
Recording?
Yeah, we're recording.
I didn't know we were even freaking recording. I would have moved up further.
Yeah, well, it's all right. But
yeah, it's different. Yeah, I thought we were just bullshitting, but
well, we're bullshitting, sir.
Yeah, we were bullshitting good. It's one of those things. It's like, it's going to be hard to prove that this guy had clear intent for this man to die. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they don't have to prove that. So,
yeah.
but I think there's a very good case for some sort of manslaughter type thing. I don't, as far as beyond reasonable doubt that you need for the murder charge, or at least for 2. I don't know if for 3 needs that. You definitely need, because he has 3 charges. So you've got murder in the second, murder in the third, and the manslaughter. I think that the second one's going to become a problem. It was a time where I'm like, okay, well, as soon as there's going to be a hung jury or anything like that, or even a not guilty for the second, the people's going to riot. But you know what? They didn't even wait to the charges to go. So they rioted for the it's Dwayne Wright, I think is his name. Which was the one that the lady shot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that.
The recent one?
I watched that video, too.
I haven't watched it, but I saw it online, but I didn't watch it.
They have him, they're about to cuff him and take him in, but he's really close to the driver's seat. And so he makes a break for it. She pulls out the gun almost immediately. You see her guns in the right hand. Then she calls for taser, but she has a gun in her hand and then shoots him. And then it's something like, oh my God, I shot him, and he drives off. I'm like, y'all done fucked up. Y'all really done fucked up there, man. You fucked up real bad.
Yeah.
She's not new. She has like 26 years.
It's heat of the moment. I mean, you get and I know people that are police officers, and you have your gun on your right if you're right-handed, because that's your quickest access.
And
you
your
put your
taser's
tasers on your left, and it's turned reverse, so you have to do a cross draw to do your taser pull. That's how most of the guys I know have theirs all set up. It's kind of like firefighters. You have your rescue stuff in one side of your body. You have your firefighting stuff on your others. It keeps your body in for your moments, but it's like it's just some people they fucked up. I mean,
she fucked up real bad.
She just fucked up. That's all you can say.
It's like one of those things where you're playing Doom or whatever, and here's a chain gun guy. You have a shotgun. You need to switch to your chain gun.
And you swap to the fucking damn pistol all of a sudden by accident,
or the rocket launcher,
and you're
blow
like,
your head off.
Fuck, you fucked up. That's all there is to it. It's like, yeah, you fucked up, but at the same time, dude, he was kind of trying to make a break for it. And he was trying to escape, and it's just...
They're supposed to, I think it's 19 unarmed black men were killed in, I think it's 2019, not 2020. And there was a lady who says, well, most of them were trying to evade arrest. It's like, if you didn't try to get away at all. But I can't remember I don't know exactly how what the fuck is the damn things you put on your the smelly things? Because when he told his mom, because he called his mom, he says they had pulled him over for having the air fresheners on his rearview mirror. And no, that was an excuse to get you.
That was just
an excuse to get you over to try to.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I used to tell I told my daughter she had an air freshener on her mirror. And I was teasing with her one day, and I'm like, because it dried out. And I was like, yeah, you ain't supposed to have that. It's a distraction for the driver. And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you can get pulled over for that. It's like the most ridiculous thing. But it's one of those, if you want to pull somebody over, they can find a reason. Oh, well, your tail light looks like it's out, even though it might not be, but it gives them an excuse of like, well, whatever it takes.
And he had something, I don't know if it was outstanding warrant for armed robbery. And I think there was an illegal gun. I don't know. I still don't know exactly, because that wasn't one of those things that kind of, you see that shit, and you're like, let me get a couple of days before. And so there's been, the story's kind of added on.
Yeah.
But if you're an activist looking for your reason, bro, you got one. It's time to go nuts. There's another, and I cannot pronounce the little Hispanic kid's name. He was 13 years old, and he got shot by the police. There's been some confusion about whether he was armed or not. He was armed, but he threw his gun out.
Yeah.
And then they shot him.
That video is online too.
Yeah, I haven't seen
that one.
I haven't
watched it, but I saw that it was online. And it was like 3 a.m. or something like that too.
Yeah, he had been out for 2 days, and his parents had not. They didn't try to file a missing persons or anything like that, which tells you a lot that this little guy was a little fuck up. So he was.
Yeah.
And then But they
I'm
got
sorry,
him
if one of my kids is gone out for more than
2 days, and you don't know, and he's 13 years old.
He's 13 years old. This ain't a fucking 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid. It's a 13-year-old kid. It's like, I'm going to be like, where the fuck have you been for the past 4 hours before I start freaking out? You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like,
and then,
it's kind of weird.
Yep, so that was I think it was in Chicago. I don't know if it was in Illinois. So I think it's actually in Chicago. Of course, the immediate thing is like, especially from from Team Red, is like, well, how many people died in Chicago that weekend?
Yeah.
It's gonna be like 30 something, of course,
yeah.
and it's just it's like one little punk who isn't unarmed,
Yeah.
but it's riot season, man. It's peaceful protest season, and so it's time to get our ride on.
It's the new end.
So a lot of these activists aren't as dedicated as Antifa was in Portland, where it's like 24/7.
They got to step up their game.
It's 24/7. Don't give a fuck what weather it is. We'll get out there and cause trouble, or be naked grannies
running down the street.
But I think by the time I put this video up, I'm gonna guess that it's going to be a hung jury for Chauvin. We'll have to see. But that's what I'm thinking, is that there's going to be just people who just will not back down on their view that he's either innocent or he's guilty as fuck.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I don't think there is a clear answer, and I would definitely respect the jury's opinion over that. A lot of people's like, no, it can't be, but it's like,
got to be one way or the other.
Yeah,
it was a complicated situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, to go back to the OJ, I was talking to my mom about that, is like, a lot of people was like, well, they clearly, it was a race thing, that's why they let him off. It's like, if you talk to the jurors, a lot of ways, and there's been things where the jurors became public later on, and there's A&E shit. Bill Curtis investigates why OJ got off. The basic thing is, the prosecution, even with their super DNA evidence, didn't prove their case, because the DNA evidence, the way it was collected, was shitty, particularly back then.
Bad.
It was so bad that there was damn good reason for it to be contaminated.
Yeah, I mean, the LA police blew it.
Yeah,
and
really. So I remember the juror was sitting there and she'd been interviewed. It's like, you know what? He probably did it, but they have to prove their point, their case.
Yeah.
And I think that Chauvin probably, in my opinion, got caught up on what the crowd was doing, and really just kind of quit paying attention to what the fuck he was doing.
Yeah.
And then so
he was trying to be aware of his surroundings. Yeah, and there was a lot of shit going on.
He had to pull. I don't know if you saw where he pulled out a taser because someone was approaching.
Yeah.
And then there was the he was some kind of Asian descent guy who's like trying to keep the crowd back. But he's also sitting there. Floyd isn't moving at fucking all, and he's still on the neck. I think their plan was to be on the, to keep him down, to keep on him until emergency services got there, and it just took for fucking ever.
Yeah, as it does.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things where I was it's fascinated. The immediate response when I first saw that video, I was like, "Holy goddamn fuck! This guy is evil. Either he is just oblivious." Or he's the most evil motherfucker I've ever seen.
It's like exactly. I mean, it's like, damn, but you have to take it all into concept. It's just like, and that's the thing. It's like they're trained to be aware of their surroundings. I think he just in the moment, it was like he was just doing what he thought he needed to do, and. He's at the same time, he's like, is somebody gonna fucking come up behind me and shoot my ass because you don't know. You don't know what's going on. You never know.
I couldn't be a cop. Fuck no.
That's the thing too, is I have nothing against cops at all, whatever. I mean, I know a lot of them, and I know some that are dicks. I know some personally that are like, this guy's an asshole. It makes sense that he's a dick.
A power grab, because you immediately, just for what you're wearing.
Yeah.
People are going to treat you way different than they would treat other people.
And I know some like that. And it's fun, but at the same time, it's like I look at it and I'm like, dude, there ain't no way in hell I'd want to do that right now. Not even for my own safety, just for the matter of every day you're one fuck up away from having your life ruined. Not even getting killed or getting shot, but just what could happen. You know what I mean? Like you're just like you're one just mishap away from like it being there one day too long.
Yeah, it's and that could be anywhere, but you're almost like it's almost guaranteed some kind of crazy shit's going to happen when you're a cop. And there's this different attitude that I think that when it comes to like defunding the police or some shit, that there needs to be. I'm not saying social workers. There needs to be some sort of separation, more separation into stuff like traffic stops and stuff like that, where it's like when you come up to a fireman, you don't think that the fireman's out to get your ass. While I have completely understand and sympathize where you see a cop and you're like you're 10 and 2 on the freaking thing, and
you're slowing down 5 miles under the speed limit.
And it's like
you just assume they're there to dick with you.
Yeah, they're just there to get you, and it leads to, and that's just the start. It will escalate, and then the point of like where I don't believe in BLM as a sort of organization these days. I think they're a bunch of grifters, but especially during the time of Ferguson, when I was looking up, and some of these guys were getting pulled over like 50 fucking times. It's like, I've never been pulled over 50 fucking times. That was damn, that's just that, I forget, it has a technical name where they just show up and search your ass.
Yeah.
And they don't have.
And that's absurd.
Yeah, and what does that lead to is it's going to be a massive mistrust. It's that these motherfuckers are oppressive assholes. And so, and they don't, and I think, there's also a separation for what if you're out in the South, you're always particularly thinking about Mayberry. It's just your Andy Taylor type sheriffs where he knows everybody there, versus the city cops where there's thousands of them and they've just been moved around and they don't give a shit.
They don't give a shit.
They don't give a shit about
a lot of them are looking for a promotion out of there, so they're going to do whatever. You always have the ones, and I've talked to people I know in law enforcement, and they're like, they'll have some young kid that wants he'll be a rookie and he wants a goddamn promotion, and he'll have more tickets given that fucking month than anybody else. Like, it'd be like goddamn ridiculous. Like, there was one time I had to go to traffic court, and for an accident. I had accidentally rear-ended somebody, and it was like in a work truck, and it was like one of those where the person in front of them slammed on brakes, and they had to slam on brakes, and I had a trailer full of shit, and I slammed on brakes, and I barely touched the bumper. It was like not even damaged at all. And the cop shows up for the police report, because, we got to do a police report, and he writes me a ticket, and the lady that I hit, she was real cool about it. She's like, yeah, it's like whatever. It's like, and I'm like, no, whatever. And she's like, I can't believe it. He's writing you a ticket. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, he's writing you a ticket for following too close. And I was like, I really wasn't following. I mean, in by the book, I was following too close because I couldn't stop in time. And she's like, oh my God. And she started apologizing to me for the cop light. I'm like, no, it's not a big deal. Whatever. I don't care. I'll pay it. I don't give a shit. So anyway, I freaking go to pay it. And they're like, you can't pay this at the courthouse. You have to go to the traffic court. And I'm like, well, that's weird, because I've had tickets before, and you go, whatever. And they were like, well, the reason you have to appear for this one is because of the type of accident it was, and everything. And I'm like, fine, whatever, I'll go to traffic court, which sucked. But I'm sitting there, and I'm going there, and you have to wait till your turn. And this was all pre-COVID, this was a few years ago. But it was like, they would have, like, set you, like, between the time point of, like, 2 to 4, that would be when your trial is, and you go in there with a bunch of other people that are also 2 to 4. And this one cop that, like, you see about 5 cops on the side, so they had to be there for when their thing came up. So I'm sitting there going through there, and there's like one comes up, and he does one, he leaves because that was the only one he had. This other one has like one, he leaves, says he's, and he gets down, and I see the cop that wrote me a ticket, and I'm over there, and this dude, he looks like PC Principal from fucking South Park. He looks like that. I was the quarterback in high school that, like, my girlfriend left me for a college guy, and I fucking hate life, and I'm douchebag McGee. And I'm like, and so I'm just like, whatever. He had that, because he even had like the aviator sunglasses on and shit when he, the traffic thing. Like, it was stereotypical as shit. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, and there's a bunch of people of us still in here, and he's the only cop sitting there. And that's when I realized this motherfucker didn't have 1 or 2 like the other cops had. He had a fucking stack. A goddamn stack of papers, and it was just one after another. And he just stood there and, like, literally, I think he did about 15 of us while we were in there. And I'm like, This motherfucker wrote more tickets than any of these fuckers combined is what it is. And I ended up talking to somebody else later and they were like, who is he? And I told him the name on the report, and he was like, oh yeah, that guy. He's trying to work his way up, man. He's young. And that's what it was. He had like a stack of fucking papers, and the rest of them had like maybe 2 at the most. And it was just like one of those where it's like, that's his thing. It's like he would write a ticket. Like somebody I know also, they had backed out of their driveway and clipped one of the neighbor's cars, and like hardly no damage at all. It like cracked the mirror or some bullshit. And you get a police report just in case for insurance or whatever you need to do. And the damn cop came to his house and wrote him a ticket, and you're like, motherfucker, you write me a ticket for and they're like, well, you did hit that car, and it's like, seriously, like I barely I need a police report. I wouldn't even fucking called your ass if I know you were gonna write me a goddamn ticket for it. But and that's what a lot of it is. I think they just go to get whoever they can. They're like, oh man, they're running their numbers.
Running.
And I don't even know quota. And I've always heard like, oh, we don't have quotas, but I've also heard, yeah, we kind of do have quotas. I think it's kind of depends on who you're talking to. Like they don't be like, well, you got to get your quota up. It's like our numbers are low. I think it's that type of shit. Because I'm sure you've seen it going back and forth to work on Highway 5. There'll be like certain stretches of like the month you might see more cops than you normally do in certain areas.
Yeah, it's one of those things where just as a general, there needs to be something happen. Whatever has to happen as far as it isn't defunding the police. It's not even necessarily about abolishing the police. There needs to be some sort of like transition where as you're an average person where you think that this person should be there to help me as opposed to try to get me on something.
Yeah, try to fuck me over.
This is how, but that's literally, you interact with the state on all kinds of ways, but it feels there's just something about the cop that's unique. I don't feel like, my friend works in the water for the city. He works with the water. I don't feel like he's out to fuck me over with my water.
He's peeing in my water, goddammit. It's like, I mean, it really does reach that point of like, have you ever, I don't know how often you get pulled over. I don't get pulled over very often.
It's like 5 or 6 times total over 25 years on the road.
Same here. But like, I used to have that, you remember when I had that black Mustang? I went from, let's see, when I was of driving age, when I started driving at 16, let's see, I got pulled over 2 times, maybe 3. Like, but of all the times I've ever gotten pulled over, I think I've gotten pulled over 3 times since the time I was 16 up until now, which is I'm 40. Not counting when I had the Mustang. I had that Mustang for about 3 years. I got pulled over like 4 or 5 fucking times. And it was like, there's no way that and it was times like I wouldn't even be really, it would almost be like, is this motherfucker getting me for speeding? Because I really don't know if like when you're within 5 miles of the speed limit. And I had one that got me. It was like, oh, the speed limit through here is like 35, and you're doing like 37. You're like, are you motherfucking serious? Like, my speedometer's probably not exactly 100% accurate. You know what I mean? Like, there 2 miles is a little bit of a degree of like, are you goddamn serious?
Well, Andy, if you tell them that it's 55, they're going to go 65. Barney, they need to freaking get enough speed up to go up that hill.
We got to cut them a break. I mean, it was just so weird because I used to hear that shit of like, well, if you got a sports car, they're going to nail your ass. Anyways, they're fucking serious. I mean, it was like literally like all kinds of shit like that. I got pulled over one time for like driving down like a turn lane that I'd done every fucking day at work, and it like wasn't even really it was like one of those where it's 3 lane and in the right lane becomes a turn only lane, and I went all the way down it to make a right hand turn, and he stopped me, and he's like, and he acted like he was pissed off. He's like, you know what you did? And I'm like, honestly, not really. I was making a right-hand turn at a red light. And he's like, but you drove down that turn lane. And I'm like, well, it's straight. There's nothing that indicates that it's turn on, that it's a turn. It's not like it was designated as a turn lane.
Yeah.
Until you got right up to, like, the intersection. Then it's like, it lets you know, hey, this is turn only. You can't fucking go straight. And he's like, but that's supposed to be for the turn. I'm like, there's nothing on the road indicating that can't be used as a third lane, and that you couldn't just move out. And it was like, and the dude, like, he ended up just telling me just to get out of there. I don't know if it was because it was late in the day and he was like, fuck it, I want to go home and I don't give a shit. But he was like, whatever, man, just be more careful. Get out of here. And I'm like, okay.
Well, that might be the main extent of us feeling they're trying to get minor traffic bullshit of us. When you're in the city, it's like, are they going to kill me today? That isn't, of course, the reality, because the 19 people who died unarmed, that was like a real. I don't have that statistic, but that's what it's like a real one.
What it ran up to.
And so, but that's the impression that's going, and so, and of course that leaves a lot of things politically that you can just drive home your point that that the whole world's kind of fucked over, or that there's this massive oppression of particular races. That's there, and I think that as the thing is, there's elements to it that's the truth, and then it's just stretched to like ad nauseum oblivion. And so, but my opinion of the police, there's a guy named Michael Malice. I don't know if you know him. He's on the internet. He's on Joe Rogan and shit like that. He's actually an anarchist. A capitalist anarchist, where we need a peaceful divorce and all that shit. Yeah. And he's been pretty influential on me. And of course, the first thing you think of is if you're looking for like police brutality, like just last week, I think like 100 cops went to a damn church in Canada. This is Canada.
Yeah,
they went there because the church
peaceful
was
Canada.
Peacefully worshiping. They fucking busted heads up in
there.
They
had the fucking snakes out and shit, and they were like, drinking the snake venom and holding them up. Not that type of church.
No, not that. Just a regular damn church. And we've seen that from the lockdowns. It's like a lot of these lockdowns look like some bogus bullshit. When you start looking at who's having the most cases between the states and stuff, and then. The ones who have severely locked down have not particularly having great numbers themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
like how much is it affected?
Yeah, and how much is this? How much is all of these? When you've been locked down for months, is that really? The freaking evidence isn't there that was a thing. Instead, what you've had evidence to the contrary, that it's been adversely affecting, and so. But who has to enforce that lockdown in a day is going to be a police officer who's going to have to go too, and there's going to be over and over again. You'll see, especially stuff like the UK or Canada, where you just had ridiculous down levels of, I guess, overstepping your boundary. And it's really if the cop would not enforce that shit, it's fucking dies. It dies.
It goes away.
Yeah, on the podium where the freaking governor or mayor comes out and says the latest bullshit. Yep. That's where it dies at if they don't enforce it. Almost like where I cannot remember the rules, but up there in Virginia where they were going to pass a bunch of gun laws, and then the fucking sheriff's just like, no, the fuck you ain't. You ain't doing shit. That was the end of it. That was it. That was it.
That's the thing. It's like it's like it only goes as far as you allow it to go.
So Mouse's opinion is that all cops are criminals, basically, which is similar to all cops are bastards in a lot of ways, and it was almost some pearl clutching last year when they started doing the ridings and shit. It's like, we got the thin blue line, and blue lives matter. And in my opinion, it's kind of went a little bit more to the opposite direction. It's like maybe a lot of these people are motherfuckers. If you're a cop in a big city, what the fuck are you doing there? Honestly, it's like
I would not want to be there at all.
It's like, just get out. If they don't want you there, freaking get out and leave, and then just let what's happened, because we've already seen what the funding the police has done. They've had to come back in almost in Seattle and Minneapolis. They've had to go back and we got to get money. We got to train cops. It's like, wow, y'all don't want some just daily chaos, man.
Yeah,
what that shit. But so my attitude is a little bit more nuanced about that. I don't want to be no cop. Fuck no.
And it's not like they get paid a lot. No. I mean, it ain't like you're getting paid damn, it's it's like military. It's like, oh, you're going over there. And
I'm assuming that the retirement being in government is probably pretty good. I don't know.
If you don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you go on the assumption that any day of the week, like, some shit, like, whether it be your fault or not, whatever, whatever the situation may be, that could all fucking go out the window, too. There's no guarantee in it.
But any sort of nuance doesn't work on CNN.
No, of course not.
Nuance doesn't work on Tucker Carlson and freaking primetime Fox, and so we're in riot season, and
it's spring, man. It's like it's time to get out there with your signs.
And things that they you can't necessarily accuse. I think CBS on the little Hispanic kid, they cropped the gun off, so it didn't look he had a gun on him, and they're not really interested in telling you.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? Do you remember like Elion back in the fucking what was it, the late 90s? The little the Elion kid, where they had the shot of the guy in the closet hiding the fucking Elion, and it's like, save Elion, and he's holding the gun up with his finger hitting on the trigger, and they tried to like make it where you couldn't see where his finger was and shit.
Yeah,
he was gonna shoot that poor Elion kid, and it's like, was he?
It's the classic. If it bleeds, it leads. Yep. And I remember, it reminds me of there was The Simpsons. Remember the broadcaster in The Simpsons, and I forgot what particular the episode was. They had it was like, it's like a tornado or some shit's coming through, and they have a death counter. Yep. The death counter's a 0, but we're ready. We're going to show you. And as I was sitting there like 16 or 17, and at the time, we didn't have cable, so we couldn't go to the 24-hour murder networks.
Yeah.
But you would turn on, literally, Channel 2 in Atlanta was called Action News. And I always made the joke, and 11 Alive would have something about 11 stories in the first 11 minutes, and that would be, it's 11 murders in the first 11 minutes. You've got to click on a Channel 2 Action Death News to live in some fear, because Glenn Burns is going to tell you that there's death tornadoes out there right now.
Yep.
And if you see Red get under the bed...
Yep.
It's just...
If it sounds like a train, you get a mattress and lay down in the bathtub. Fucking just cover up.
And you go out there, I get my cats. One of them, we were in an apartment, and Glenn Burns is telling me we're going to die. I get my cats, like, we're going to get underneath.
We love you, kid.
Yeah, we're gonna die. And out there's fucking nothing. There's nothing at all out there, because the fear is what sells you to shit.
Yeah, that's what keeps you tuned in, because you think you're gonna die.
And it's so basic, but it's something that's just seems to be forgotten. Now, if we're going to wear a nice suit and we're going to talk about our most fiery but mostly peaceful protests, while the goddamn entire back screen is just flames.
Fire.
Yeah, it's like
goddamn on fire.
It's just they're there to stir shit up. Literally, if you get stirred shit up, then you've got something for your 24 news. And so,
well, when you're reporting 24 hours, you got to have some shit.
Yeah,
because it can't be like, well, this hour was not very inventive.
and so it's nothing but, bullshit all day, 24/7. And so Miles calls them, they're the corporate media, and they're the enemy of the people. I'm like, wow, that's just vibing with me. I agree completely. It's like, I ain't going to catch, if I want to learn something, I don't catch fucking CNN. I watch independent people, and even then, though, they're on YouTube giving their independent shit. They need you to click in every day, and so it's just like a cycle that can't end. And so you just end up like, well, what do I trust anymore? Fucking nothing.
I can't trust anything.
You can't trust anything. It'd be like the guy from Spinal Tap. He's like, well, I mostly just believe everything I read because it's better than believing in nothing, right? But that was my thing about Chauvin. I think it'll be a hung jury.
I don't see there being an answer one way or the other. I really don't. I think it'll be. I don't see them being like, this guy is clearly a fucking murderer and we're gonna put him in prison. I don't see that happening, and I don't see. Well, he's clearly fucking. There's like nothing going on. Like this is completely legit. Whatever. I think it'll be a hung jury.
And last year I was all big in anticipation of what was going to happen for this trial, thinking that, riots are going to happen anyway. And then on top of that, you have shit like Kyle Rittenhouse and shit's going down anyway, where I know I watched that live from 3 or 4 different views the night it happened. One of those things. Oh shit, the death scrolling's going on Twitter. I got to go see what's going on. And so you watch him shoot those guys pretty much live, and it's clearly self-defense if you've seen all of that different sides. But they've charged his ass with murder. They've overcharged him, and so here we go again. We'll see some good shit from that. It's almost like in a lot of ways, Chauvin's almost irrelevant. George Floyd's irrelevant because they'll just be the next one.
It'll be the next one now.
Yeah, and then it'll just continue on. And once you're set in your view, you're not going to listen to the other person.
It doesn't matter.
You're gonna,
once you've made up your mind.
And then it's just there ain't no end to this, man. But that's depressing. But that's the way I see things right now.
That's the way life is.
Ain't no point to it. Just like Kitty, just lay on the couch. Fuck it.
Wait for my Joe dollars to come in.